Today I'd like to share with you a struggle that I found myself fall into, and I became shipwrecked in my recovery. Now, there's a story, if you come from faith in the Bible, about people becoming shipwrecked in their faith. And I want to tell you that I'm borrowing that kind of metaphor because I was shipwrecked in my recovery due to the fact that I kept trying to change Samantha. And see, when we keep trying to change someone else, it usually only changes us, and it changes us in a pretty negative way. And that's what happened to me. I found myself being very critical of Samantha and wanting to see her change in these areas. Now, early on, I believed that those areas were the reasons that I had my affair. As I got healthy, within about 6 months, 12 months, and then obviously gaining more and more momentum, I realized, well, those weren't the reasons that I cheated. I cheated because I was selfish and I was deceived and I was living for the applause of other people and I was incredibly inadequate. And I constantly blamed Samantha rather than just owning my own inadequacy. And I could talk for an hour about all of the reasons why I cheated. But today, I want to explain to you this shipwreck that we find ourselves in when we constantly fixate on our significant other, trying to change them, which then produces anger, hostility, bitterness, rage, frustration. It creates in us a disillusionment. But the problem is we usually don't change our partner. We end up changing ourselves in a very negative way. I found myself kind of generating my own momentum with, if Samantha would just do X and Y, we would be good. Like that would fix so much. And she won't do X and Y. And so I tried to do all the things that most people do, right? I would shove articles in her face or, hey, watch this. And I would try and do this. I even talked about getting some help. And Samantha was resistant to all of that. And it really was very frustrating because I was kind of like, look, these are genuine issues. And I would sit with Rick and maybe this other therapist, and I would say, she won't get it. She won't change. It's not working. And you too know, Rick, this is an issue and I'm right. And I would say to Wayne, another therapist, look, she's got to see that this is an issue. Why won't she see it? And eventually one day, Rick said to me, you know, Sam, I'm tired of hearing about all the weaknesses and inadequacies of Samantha. When are you going to stop trying to change her? Because all you're doing is fixating on her. In fact, you're being a bit arrogant because you have produced this arrogance inside of you that says that you know how Samantha should be. Are you God? Are you this divine, perfect being? Are you this perfect, all-knowing individual that should decide how Samantha should be? And I got angry and said, no, but I do know a thing or two about what a wife should be like. Before you start writing that comment, before you hit send, take a deep breath and just realize that was 13, 14 years ago. But it is a pattern. We find ourselves shipwrecked in this idea that if I could just change my spouse, unfaithful or betrayed, everything would just be great. And it is a fallacy. It is a mirage. It is not the truth. This line of reasoning keeps us a victim. If Samantha would just do what she needs to do, I wouldn't be the way I am. I wouldn't react the way I react. I wouldn't have the struggles that I have. If Samantha would just do X and Y, I would no longer be a victim of her X and Y because her X and Y is making me do what I'm doing. It's producing in me what I'm feeling. Therefore, it's not my fault. It's her fault. See, I made myself a victim to her refusing to change. Now, let me pause and talk to you about X and Y. I do believe X and Y needed to be changed. I do believe that X was somewhat wrong and needed some adjustment, and I believe that Y was somewhat out of balance, and those need to be adjusted, or needed to be adjusted. They're great now. But here's the problem. The way I was going about it was not creating safety, was not manifesting humility, was not expressing compassion or an empathy for what Samantha was walking through as a woman due to the choices that I have made. I was not being compassionate for her inability to see how X and Y were affecting me. Now, I'm not saying that X and Y were not affecting me. They were, but I still had a choice in how I let them affect me. Because there came that good old Western draw session with Rick where he finally called my bluff, and I had a choice. I could listen to what Rick was saying and own it because I knew that Rick had my best interests at heart. Or I could be stubborn, rebellious, prideful, and even somewhat narcissistic and think, no, look, God, here we are again. I'm right and everybody else is wrong. They just can't see it. These people are stupid. They don't get it. I am right. I've heard from God. I know that this is right. These concepts are sound and good principles of marriage, and I'm right. And I decided at that point, I'm going to trust Rick. And I began this journey that was pretty gut-wrenching. If you're going to heal from trauma, if you're going to heal from some demented things that you've picked up over the years and decades of your life, if you're going to grow, you're going to have to do some gut-wrenching, soul-searching work. And I came to this point where I was like, you know what I'm doing isn't working. It's time for something new. I can't make Samantha get it because the more that I try and make her get it, the more that it actually backfires and she doesn't feel safe or loved or cared for. She doesn't feel unconditionally loved or supported. She doesn't feel safe. She doesn't feel like I love her for who she is. She feels like I'm trying to make her into this clone, which then produces inside of her an insecurity because it makes her think that I don't love her, and so I'm probably going to cheat anyway, or that I'm about to cheat, or that if she doesn't do these things, I'm going to cheat, which makes her feel manipulated and controlled and boxed in and doesn't let her want to be vulnerable or open with me because she feels like if she's vulnerable or open with me, then I'm going to see that she's not who I want. And so here we are again on the treadmill of chaos, calamity, and absolute uncertainty about our marriage. So Rick says to me, look, why don't you try doing this? And let's see how that works. And let's not constantly reevaluate this every single day or week. We tell couples at our EMS weekend, it becomes exhausting to constantly evaluate and reevaluate every single day. Are we going to make it? Are we not going to make it? We've had a couple of good days. We've had 4 bad days. We're doomed. Forget it. I don't know. I'm not sure. Today was a great day. What's tomorrow going to be like? And you become just like this schizophrenic, uncertain, insecure kind of like, and then you try and decide, are you going to stay? Are you going to go? Are you going to save your marriage? Are you going to not save your marriage? And it's overwhelming. One of the best things that you can do is set a date somewhere between 6 and 18 months from now. You set that date. And it's an exercise that says, look, I'm not going to constantly evaluate and reevaluate our progress every day. I'm going to set this date. I'm going to commit to the process. I'm going to do this work. And then I will evaluate whether I'm going to stay or go at that time. Inevitably, I know you're going to ask me, so Samuel, does that mean that we turn a blind eye to, unsafe behavior and continuing to act out with their affair partner or addiction? No. I'm just saying the more that you fixate on trying to change them, the more it's not going to work. Yes, you should absolutely be able to draw boundaries in the relationship and say, look, if you're going to do this, I'm not going to allow that. Or you can also enforce consequences, which is like, hey, I told you if you acted out again with your affair partner or if you went to contact them that I was going to ask you to move out. And so you need to move out. Or I'm going to move out because you're not safe. And there's absolutely the need for you to draw boundaries, enforce consequences, and no longer tolerate unsafe behavior. If your spouse or partner is continuing to engage in high-risk behavior, you have every right to pull back and say, look, I can no longer subject myself to this behavior. That's absolutely essential. But there comes a point where you say, I'm no longer going to keep trying to change them. They're going to have to want it. And if they don't want it, well, then maybe I won't want the relationship. And that's a decision that you can make down the road. But I just want to appeal to you, stop fixating today. Stop trying to change them because it's probably only changing you.